Mr. Rowe, I'm a fan. I watched you a lot on TV, so it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks.
You know, when you were out there in the Dakotas and you watched a lot, I assume you saw a lot of these windmills and these projects. What was your thought about that when you saw those?
Well, the first thought is, you know, on the show, we look for things that look like work. You know, I mean, we just had to find them. So immediately you land, you get into that environment, and you say, okay, I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but it's interesting, and you know, these guys are fully engaged. So that was the fun part of the show. We didn't. I was an apprentice. I was a perpetual apprentice on 300 of these things. So, you know, I had a front row seat to a lot of different industries. But fundamentally, you know, beyond the specific industries that are up there was just a sense of optimism and possibility and urgency. You know, I mean, there was a real, it's the opposite of drudgery, right? And in so many instances, the reason I keep talking about portrayals of work is because pop culture really does inform this conversation in a way that we don't often talk about, but really, really powerful. And on our show, we tried to show the truth as it was, but you know, as I'm sure Sean will agree, there's great humor on the work site. You know, I mean, there's a great sense. There's a band of brothers mentality that's really, really self-evident when people are engaged in their work, doing something that they know is meaningful and necessary, and that's what North Dakota is all about right now.
Absolutely, and you know, it shows, right, when we invest wisely, right? And I think, for example, the energy tax credits that sort of spawned that not only created jobs for Americans, grew the economy, but grew in an environmentally friendly way, and I think moved the country forward. Ms. Martinez, I wanted to talk to you. I was the former director of the Office of Economic Impact in the Department of Energy, so I worked with your group, and you know, if there's one area in the country, in particular one industry where Hispanics aren't very represented, is in the energy industry. So what are some aspects of that you think can get more Hispanics involved, whether it's the comprehensive immigration reform, or what are the issues do you think are important to sort of expand the workforce in that area? Particularly where you're having a tremendous need for workforce, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with that is establishing benchmarks and making sure that energy companies and energy providers are looking at the issue and taking this issue seriously. With that is making sure that they're expanding their outreach into our communities, working with organizations like ours, the American Association of Blacks in Energies, others, to ensure that their pipeline of getting people for these jobs is there. But you can only do that if you start to sit there and make it a goal. If you're not creating it as a benchmark, you're never going to achieve it. Right. And so that is a critical piece that we're finding going around the country, really to make sure that they're actually doing it and engaging with energy providers about how they can do that best.
Right. Let me ask you, with the comprehensive immigration reform, do you think that could have any impact in terms of the energy field and Hispanics in energy?
Obviously, getting comprehensive immigration reform is something that should be critical to this nation. I mean, it certainly provides an opportunity for job and workforce development, and making sure that there are people who are available to do that. So finding a solution that is bipartisan and that can help ensure that we can do that for all of our country and for our Hispanics who are here in this country, yes, it is critical.
And my last question, Mr. McGarvey, sort of, you know, when I deal with the trades and different groups, this is one area of the economy which I think has the most growth potential of any area, which is energy and energy production. And so whether it's new technology like windmills, whether it's upgrading existing technology, I know you've spoken to it a little bit, but clearly any part of that we grow, that we invest more. You know, my colleague was mentioning about that it can be from the private side. I would assume, though, that you weren't opposed to the huge investments this administration made in sort of energy production and energy expansion, like in nuclear and other areas, which you think obviously would have helped your trades council. Certainly my trades council is very much for it.
Of course, we're not opposed. We think that, and I heard a couple of members mention, the sourcing issue is important. You know, when it comes to, it's great that we're deploying lots of solar, but when they're being manufactured in China, it's not helping our manufacturing base here. So more American sourcing on those issues.
Great. Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back the balance of my time. Thank you.
Representative